a has-been who sleeps with old ladies for money, an accountant that's a man-child, springtime for Hitler? All this can only mean one thing. We're comparing the producers on this episode of Retro versus Remake.
I'm Reggie Parker.
And I'm Dan Bulick. Welcome to another episode of
Retro versus Remake.
This is the series where we discuss films and their remake. Join us as we explore the question, should this remake exist? Today's films are the producers.
Let's assume, just for the moment, that you are a dishonest man. Assume away.
Let's assume for a moment that you are a dishonest man.
Assume away.
We're going to jump right into it. The original producer is made in 1967, starring Zero Mostel, Gene Wilder, Dick Shawn, Christopher Hewitt, Kenneth Mars, and Lee Meredith. Directed by Mel Brooks. Screenplay by Mel Brooks. Music by John Morris, and words by Mel Brooks. He had a heavy hand in this one. Producers 2005, starring Nathan Lane, Matthew Broderick, Uma Thurman, Will Ferrell, Gary Beach, and Roger Bart. Directed by Susan Stroman, who also was the director of the Broadway show. Screenplay by Mel Brooks and Thomas Meehan. Music by Mel Brooks and Basil Poudouris. All right, and just before we get into our experiences, I just want to say the original was a comedy, a film, and then the remake is based off of the Broadway show that is based on the original film. So there's slight different genres kind of we're comparing here. But anyways, Reggie, what is your first experience with either film?
The producers, of course, I'm aware of it and its influence on pop culture. I just never got around to actually watching the whole thing. The remake, I remember when it came out, but I know I didn't go to see it, probably because it was just like a musical. And I felt like other musicals at the time we did a lot of that, like Moulin Rouge and stuff like that. So it wasn't really my favorite genre at the time, so I skipped it.
My first experience with the producers has to be Curb Your Enthusiasm. I don't know if you watched Curb.
Oh, yeah.
But there was a whole season where Larry was cast by Mel Brooks to be Max Bialystock. I had never seen the producers. I had heard that it was a Broadway show, but that was my first experience with the producers. And I think it was because of that I went back and watched the original and then eventually the remake, both on DVD. I didn't see the remake in theaters. A lot of my knowledge of this really comes from that whole season of Curb. Huge Curb fan, and it's a great season. It ends a little weak because they get a little lazy. They kind of just do what the producer's storyline does, but it's great. Great series. Yeah. So these are this is weird because they're different kind of genres. One's straight up a comedy, one's definitely a musical, but they're kind of the same. It's just like the remake is just the original, just with some added musical numbers in it, pretty much.
Right.
So before we get to our comparison, I will go over a synopsis. Here we go. Max Bialystock is a has-been Broadway producer. While he may have been a name once, now he just makes flops and has to sleep with elderly women to get funding. One day, accountant Leo Bloom shows up to audit him. After learning Leo is crazy, Max convinces him to cook the books a little. While doing this, Leo discovers a producer can make more money from a flop than a hit. The scheme would be to raise millions for a play that only costs thousands. Once the play is a flop, they keep the rest of the money and the IRS doesn't look into it since it was a flop. Max loves the idea, but it takes some effort to convince Leo. Then they look for the worst play ever and they choose Springtime for Hitler, a gay romp with Adolf and Eva at Berchtesgaden. The duo then convince the writer, Franz Liebken, to let them make their play. They then go to flamboyant director Roger Debris and his assistant Carmen to do the same. The pieces are in place and now Max just has to raise money by sleeping with lots and lots and lots of elderly women. Around this time, we are also introduced to Ula, who works for our duo. When opening night arrives, Max and Leo are excited. People start walking out immediately during the first song. The show seems to be a flop when Hitler arrives. He is completely comical by accident, and the crowd loves it. The show then becomes a big hit. Max and Leo are in trouble. No way can they pay all their backers back, and they will go to jail. Franz is furious about this debut. He tries to shoot Leo and Max, but they ultimately live. Eventually, Max and Leo are sentenced to jail, and in jail, they are still scamming all over with their new Broadway hit, Prisoners of Love. The end. Pretty much the same. It's things got a little bit different with the introduction of Ula and then the ending, but I think we're going to get into that with our comparison. And since I said before, these pictures are pretty much the same, except that the remake just has all these extra musical numbers. I think we should save that for maybe towards the later part of our comparison. I think maybe we'll start with the characters.
Yeah, I think that's a fair place to start, especially considering the musical aspect starts to make these films different. But let's talk about similar characters. Max Białystok. In the 1967 version, he was played by Zero Mastel.
You find the worst play in the world, a surefire flop. Step 2, I raise $1 million. A lot of little old ladies in the world.
And in the remake, it's Nathan Lane.
Send me to the moon, you animals! I love you!
This character, to me, like, I started with the original in terms of my watch. Very striking early on, the way that he's able to demand sort of attention and define his character in a pretty unique way. Yeah, so when we're talking about Max Białystok, what struck me from Zero's portrayal immediately was just, it's such a unique character. Like, he's this kind of like boisterous guy, like physically, like a lot of the physical comedy that he's able to pull off with his hair and his appearance and things along those lines. Like, he's an instantly recognizable character, and they do a lot of the exposition. They just drop you right into his circumstances. They don't explain anything. You just, this is a day in the life of Max Białystok, hooking up with an old lady and talking about, you know, the old days.
There are various scenarios that they play out, which is just pretty gross. Yeah, he's an interesting character because so many redeeming qualities to Max Białystok. He's this washed up old has-been. He's physically not healthy. He's got that terrible comb over. He's taking advantage of all these old ladies. You could say they're taking advantage of him, but he's definitely just in it for the money. He's interesting. I'll leave it at that.
Well, I think you picked up on something that is interesting about the character, is that on paper there's nothing likable about him. Whether it's taking money from old ladies, whether it's the fraud, he shouldn't be likable on any level. But there's just something about this portrayal that, even with all his flaws, I think the comedy is what shines through. You're not really focused on the bad things that he's doing. It's the funny way in which he's doing them. And I think to your point too, with the old ladies, like, you could kind of make an argument of who's taking advantage of who in the scenario. And I think that ambiguity with this particular type of, like I said, fraud actually gives us space to actually want to get behind the character in a way that I think is really, really hard to pull off. And that's sort of my take on it, that Zero Mastel is very early on able to take this terrible person, make him a fun character. And that there's some comedic genius to that.
I guess because you have Leo, I'll talk to him about in a second, who's kind of crazy. So we're kind of torn between this kind of evil guy who's taking advantage of old ladies and this kind of crazy guy. And then the evil guy's kind of talking to us like we're his buddy. So I guess we're kind of, right, because of Leo, we're kind of relating to Max more.
I think you're 100% right that Leo play, if you don't have this ultra innocent character, which is basically what Leo is, he's naive, childish, a little bit crazy, maybe a lot of bit crazy.
A lot of it.
A lot of bit. Like, that guy barely functions as a human adult. And Max Białystok barely functions as a human adult for different reasons. Basically, he's incompetent in a way of, like, he's just never been able to recapture the old days. And Leo just never was there. And the two pairing up together, you take that ultimate naive character and this kind of like schemer who's had better days, and it is a fun dynamic.
Yeah, but just, I guess, going back to Max and the portrayals between Zero and Nathan Lane, I think they both did a pretty good job. like what you said before, they have to be this pretty terrible person, but still likable, and then we still have to be able to laugh at his jokes. And I think both were pretty good. I think Zero is a little more disheveled looking. Ecomo is just, what are you doing, man? Just let it go at that point. Nathan Lane even shaved his head for the role so he could have more of a comb over. And there's not much of a difference when it comes to the two character portrayals. Nathan Lane wasn't necessarily giving much more to do in his role, but I still think he did a pretty good job too.
I think he does a good job. Clearly, the plan from that film is to sort of get as close to the Zero portrayal as possible while still in the context of a musical. And you can't fault Nathan Lane at all for his portrayal. I think like you said, I think it's a very good portrayal of this character. For me, however, the Max Bialystock that we're introduced to, that more disheveled, that more sort of believably kind of skeezy Mossel take on it. It's the original, it's iconic, and because Nathan is basically tasked with emulating that, I give the edge out to the original, but both pretty good portrayals, to your point.
Yeah, I guess the only reason, like, I kind of agree with you. I think Zero looks a little more disheveled. It's like I've never seen him in anything. I've seen Nathan Lane in plenty of things, so I'm pretty familiar with like his just kind of shtick. And yeah, so this unknown is definitely a lot more like skeezier than Nathan Lane, who's not necessarily skeezy, but definitely portraying the role pretty well. So I'm gonna kind of cop out here and give it a tie because I don't know. I think Nathan Lane really did a good job. He didn't like do anything to like elevate the role, but he certainly didn't do anything to make it worse. And it wasn't like the whole time it's like, oh man, this is he's nothing compared to Zero. I wasn't saying that the whole time he was up. So I enjoyed both of their portrayals, and I can't really pick a winner. So sorry, internet.
No,
I'm gonna go with the tie on the portrayals.
I don't mind that tie. Actually, what stops it from being a tie for me is actually the Leo character in the remake. I think Matthew Broderick, there's some variances and we'll get into them, but to an extent, I think Matthew Broderick's Gene Wilder feels closer to the Gene Wilder in terms of just like the speaking pattern, I would say more so. I think both of them really nail it. Broderick felt a little bit closer to Wilder to me in behavior. So that backdrop made the Zero portrayal by Nathan Lane, which is fine. It just felt a little bit less like that original character, which I think actually is probably a smart play.
Yeah, that's kind of what I like about it, because it doesn't. I didn't feel like he was trying to do what the old portrayal was. Like Nathan Lane definitely brought his own flair to it, so he was still able to be true to the character, without having to be sort of this copy, which is kind of my problem with Matthew Broderick's portrayal.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. Like I do personally play with both sides of it, where I like that Broderick sort of shows his range and his ability to emulate Gene Wilder so perfectly in, I would say, not the physical aspect of the comedy, but from the speaking part of it. I think it's pretty close. But I think Nathan Lane is the more overall well-rounded, because I think you're right. He gets to go off in his own space. Still giving the edge to Zero, but it's close. So, I don't disagree with your tie, is what I'm saying.
Oh, that's fair enough. Yeah, I think these character comparisons are going to be kind of quick because there's not much different. But let's go on to Leo. We already said. So we have Gene Wilder as our original Leo.
To be honest, Doc, I cannot function in these conditions. You make me extremely nervous.
Matthew Broderick is our Leo in the remake.
Max, she's fantastic. I've never felt this way before.
And I'll just start with what I kind of said. I did feel like Gene Wilder doing Gene Wilder does, right? It's great. And then I did feel like, coming back to your point, like it was Matthew Broderick doing Gene Wilder.
Yes.
So that took me out of it a little bit. While I appreciated seeing that, and I thought he did a fair enough job, he's not really making it his own. So for me, it just felt like a copy the whole time.
Yeah, and I'll say that Gene Wilder's physical comedy is better. It just is.
Yeah.
Case in point, when we were talking about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, that little role in that movie, the little forward role he does, it stuck with me. And a lot of the ways that Gene Wilder works is because he makes these choices that are seemingly innocuous, but through the lens of acting, it's like, wow. Like when he's got the blue blanket, because they both were obsessed with their blanket. The Wilder one just feels more natural to me, whereas again, it does feel like Matthew Broderick is trying to look like Gene Wilder with the blanket, but it just didn't feel the same to me. So I mean, Gene Wilder he can't be matched. It's not possible. So to me, like Gene is just the more believable character. Matthew Broderick is doing a copy, and when it comes to the physical, that 1-to-1 just doesn't match. So Wilder's Leo is the stronger Leo for me. They help Broderick out with fleshing out the character a little bit more, but even with that, I'm still leaning towards Gene.
I sort of saw some differences in their interpretations. I don't know, like they both obviously were crazy. I felt like Wilder was like almost schizophrenic in his portrayal, because like he'd sort of come across as mature, and then he'd go into this like childish rage, and then he'd kind of come back as to like, oh, I'm just an adult man. But like for Matthew Broderick, I kind of felt like he was just stuck in that sort of Arrested Development. Like he never came to like a maturity when all the hysteria like was down. Like I guess he just seemed a little more boyish. Matthew Broderick just looks like a 40-year-old boy, so that might help the reason I think that. And then just I guess because they do also draw out his character more. We'll get to this with Ula, but he has a love interest in this one, and just the way he approaches that is just kind of like almost like a boy, as well as like we're just holding hands and kissing kind of a thing is what he says. I guess he felt a little more boyish. Is it better or is it worse? I don't know. Yeah. I could take it or leave it, but he was able to do a little bit more with Leo than Nathan was able to do with Max.
Yeah, and I think that part of it does come down to some smart writing choices. Like the Ula character in the first film sort of ties more into Max, which I think could be part of the reason that I'm happier with that original portrayal, because Ula is really just another example of him being sketchy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Whereas Ula, and I guess we're kind of talking about this character already. It's hard to unwrap everything, but Ula in the remake, we'll talk about what aspects she gets on her own, but like she actually serves the Leo character sort of arc a little bit more, and by a little bit, I mean a lot more, because of their relationship. So I think that you take some of that exposition off of Bialystok and you put it into Leo Bloom, and I think that it does give you that combination of what you're talking about, where he's just able to do more of the character because there's more to do.
We'll just talk about who Ula was portrayed by. The original was portrayed by Lee Meredith.
The receptionist that can't speak English? What will people say?
They'll say,
In the remake, Uma Thurman.
Bialystok and Bloom. Bialystok and Bloom.
Oh, smart as a whip.
I think talking about her would help us get into Leo a little bit more. So we could talk about how she's different in both movies. Like you had said, in the original, she's more there to serve Max. Max got all the money from sleeping with all those old ladies, so he's like, I'm going to spend a little bit on what did he say, toy or something?
Yeah. Toys.
Something like that.
And he was talking about more than just her, maybe the office and some other things, but yes.
So he spends money on her just to be like their sexy receptionist who dances at the drop of a hat and sleeps with Max regularly in the original, which is kind of pretty funny, and it's sad that it's kind of gone from the remake. But instead, they went a different route in the remake, and instead of just being a receptionist, she's also going to be the lead actress and the love interest for Leo Bloom, Matthew Broderick's Leo Bloom. So those are the differences with the Ula.
Yeah, I think you have to do that. Ula in the original film is sort of like a joke character. She doesn't speak English, and it's absurd that Max wants her to be the receptionist. despite her lack of ability to speak the common language.
But Ula dance.
She does dance.
Ula, dance again!
Hey, I can appreciate, I guess. But yeah, no, Ula is there because she's in the original film because she's got like a rocking body, and you know, of course the producers want to sleep with her. You know that's a character. I think in the remake it's necessary and also smart to flesh her out because when you think about it in the context of this was for a Broadway adaptation, you're not just gonna bring a character just to do that. You know.
Yeah.
And if you
plus, there's like no strong female leads in the original.
There's none.
So you have to draw out one, and the only real female lead, except for "Hold Me, Touch Me" or whatever, is our Ula character.
I think it's completely necessary because if you want people outside the context of even this movie itself, but if you want people to go see your like Broadway play, the women are going to need something to cling on to other than just the receptionist that shakes her boobs. I mean, that's kind of it. But no, I appreciate the Ula flesh out. At times the portrayal feels like I don't know what the rules are. Like, does she know how to speak English? Does she not know how to speak English? Like, what's the deal with her?
I'll agree with you. I agree that they attempted to, flesh out her character more, but it does feel like what is exactly her character there for? Right. Is she there just to be their eye candy, which isn't kind of addressed again? Is she there to create this rift between Leo and Max, which is what you think in the first place? Or is she there just to sort of take advantage of Leo at one point, get him to steal the money? So while it's good that you try to flesh out these characters, not having a point to them could be a problem. And I don't really know what she was there for.
Yeah, right. Because all right, so at 1 second she's the receptionist. Then she's going to be an actress in the play. Mm-hmm. And then she's also the producer's girlfriend. In this case, they kind of switched the producer's girlfriend. It is, I guess. But you don't use enough Uma Thurman. And by making her this character that like barely is able to speak, depending on the situation, really, whenever the comedy chooses to make her not good at English, and then they make her good at English when they need to like get another point across. It's not consistent, and it creates a confusion for what should have been a pretty strong character in the film, and still is, but just there's a lot of gaps in the portrayal.
I thought she could have been a little bit stronger. She's definitely sort of for the most part, she's a reactionary character until after the play, where she's like, okay, you steal the money and we go. That's her biggest contribution I can really think of. And even at that point, it's like, it doesn't matter because Leo just comes back anyway for reasons. So I'm going to say this. I'm going to say it now, and I'm probably going to say it a few more times. Mm-hmm. The movie's a little long. It's a little long, Reggie. Yeah. And it drags us around in these circles sometimes. And it's like, can we just get to the point? And Ula is one of those characters that just kind of, where are we going with you? Can we just figure out what we're doing here?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I know we're going to talk about length a bit more. This is not the last time. But yes, there are certainly moments in the Ula story arc that could either be pared down, don't go anywhere. And it's a shame because Uma Thurman's a great actress.
Oh, yeah.
She looks fantastic in this film.
Yeah. I mean, she's great in her musical number. We will get to that. Yep. I do kind of feel a little bit bad for her that she kind of has to shake her tits. And, she's been this established actress and just has to... Because it's weird, because you obviously wouldn't just have her be like that go-go dancer like in the original, but you're still, sort of, there's that sexploitation kind of factor going on there. She's just the eye candy. Right. Pretty much. It doesn't get much deeper than that, her role. Right. So I kind of feel a little bit bad for Uma Thurman, who, fresh off of Kill Bill, now has to do this. So
that's fair. And what kind of throws me off is, and we're going to talk about music, but when you have the song like the Flaunt It song, it's giving this character this type of agency that makes you say to yourself, what's her end game? And
Right.
there's not really an end game. I guess you could
No.
say they took the money and went to Rio, but not, like you said, not for long. There's no real indication that she's like super smart and trying to like scam these guys. She just
Yeah.
kind of seems to be along for the ride and seemingly really likes Leo. So is she scamming Leo or does she like Leo? We gotta lay that out, and it's just confusing again.
Yeah, it was definitely a missed opportunity. It would have been much better character arc if she had just taken advantage of Leo, taken the money, and she's still in Rio, and then Leo just comes back to be with Max. But yeah, she started off so strong, like with that. If you got it, flaunt it. I know my strengths, and I'm going to use them to my advantage. And you
Right.
think she's going to, but then they actually have her fall in love, which is kind of pointless then.
Right. I mean, is it the best portrayal to have her kind of like, hugging Leo, but then like taking his wallet out, stuff like that? Like, no, but I think that would give us a consistency that we
Yeah.
would need for the character to know how to feel about her. Not us to like her, but they also, I think the flaunt it was intended to be like this sort of empowerment, do what you got to do song, but it doesn't fit this character. It doesn't really make sense in the context of the film. So better. So, obviously points to the remake in terms of fleshing the character out, but they could have done it in a smarter way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's good that you gave her more to do than just shake her ass, but you didn't give her much more to do.
Right.
So small edge to the remake there.
Yeah. Like, I will say this though, in Lee Meredith's defense, one, she's barely given a speaking role because even when she does speak, no one can understand her. But she does have some funny beats in the film that I think we shouldn't just gloss over. Because Uma Thurman does get to play, but like she's there at the end when when Franz is trying to kill them, and she gets a funny beat there.
Oh yeah.
She gets the funny beat with the go to work, and she starts dancing again. So although it's a limited and very limiting character, Lee Meredith still finds her shots to make her impact on the film.
Yeah, it's a one-note character, but she plays that one note pretty well comedically at times. So
I think so.
I'll give her that. Yeah, it's not just like tits and ass. It's mostly that, but it's not just that.
It's mostly that, but like the actress is able to come across as competent, even when the character itself is so one note, like you said. Slight edge, like you said, slight edge to the remake.
Slight edge. What are you gonna do? Did you want to go back into Leo a little bit and talk about that, or you think?
No, I think that is important. So since we did talk about the Ula character, the changes that she makes to Leo, I like them until they sort of backtrack on it. When they start sort of hooking up or whatever it is that they're doing, and Leo's able to get rid of the safety blanket. He's able to kind of grow up to an extent because he's met her. And then like a couple scenes later, like, nope, I need it. And he just goes back to being the same guy, I find that to be part of the issue with the film is that if you're going to make these changes, stick with them. You're doing your own thing.
And if you don't stick with them, then you're going to ask yourself, watching this longer version, what was the point of that?
Right.
Why did I have to sit through that, and that? If we were going here the whole time. We could have just went from A to D, but you made A, B, C. And then big problem with the remake, and Leo's just part of it.
Yeah, I think to your point earlier, it would have made sense for there to be more of a rift between Leo and Max if the Uli character was creating tension between them, and Leo started kind of quote unquote manning up and making his own decisions against Max. That could have been a fun place to play in, and they don't because it's there to flesh out the character. But I think it's there because in a Broadway show you need a couple more music acts, and I think they're writing around the music in a way that just like you said, it starts to detract from the actual story.
Yeah, it doesn't serve the story at all. It's just musical numbers. Just here's another thing that happens, so we have another set piece for another musical number, so we can have another set piece for another musical number, and we'll get back to plot eventually. Yeah. Spoilers, that's a big problem with the remake. But
it is. I mean, there are moments where the extra songs help out certain characters. Again, it's like this addition and subtraction that we often see with these remakes, where making Leo more takes a little bit away from Max. Making the which we haven't gotten to this yet, but like making the writer more takes a little, like you don't just, if you're taking the same story and you're adding or taking things away, you're not just adding something. Something's actually, it's like alchemy. Like something's being lost in this equation. And I think I appreciate what they're trying to do. I think they missed the mark with Leo, because it just felt like keep going, keep going. He lost the blanket. Don't go back and pick the blanket out of the trash can. That's not what the audience needs from you right now.
Yeah, they really set up this beautiful thing where it's like, we're going to be partners, right? And nothing's going to stop us. And then you have Ula come in. It's like perfect timing comedically. So you're like waiting for this rift to happen, and it doesn't really happen until the very end, kind of,
right,
where Leo decides to go to Rio, and then Max is singing about how he feels betrayed in jail. And then it doesn't even matter, because we're going to still end up at the courthouse, and they're still going to be best friends. And nothing really happened to sort of patch it up or even necessarily create that tension, because the recipe was there, but we didn't do anything with it.
Right. Yeah, just even the portrayed song. No, given what I've seen in the film, no, you were not betrayed. you were not betrayed. So, if anything, he was again trying to take advantage of Leo and his childlike nature, and he got caught. And Leo at the time didn't get caught, but because he's the nice guy character, for some reason he comes back. The problem with all of that is why? Why did he come back? And
yeah.
And
I think the problem is at that point the movie was already long enough. There might have been an extra scene to maybe justify why Leo came back, but at that point it's over 2 hours into the movie. Let's wrap it up.
Right.
So I don't know if there was a deleted scene. I like to think there was, because why have Leo betray Max to just come back anyway without even telling us why?
Yeah. Like we were saying before, the translation from Broadway to screen, you got to imagine that you're probably dealing with an audience that can take an intermission. They're at the bar, stopping to drink and stuff like that. So you could do the long first act, completely break. So when the audience comes back, they're reset, which you're not getting in a movie setting. I'm just watching this straight, and I need answers, and they need to come. They need to come quickly, in a way that just isn't going to happen in a musical. So it's the wrong medium, I guess.
Let's get into the other characters who have slightly different portrayals. So we have Franz, our writer, portrayed by Kenneth Mars.
Oh, joy of joys! Oh, dream of dreams!
And then Will Ferrell in the remake.
Bertha, Heinz, Heidi, Wolfgang, Adolf.
Again, pretty similar portrayals. Some slight differences in there. I guess the main difference is the ending. They're both mad about the portrayal of Hitler in the play, so they want to kill Leo and Max. But in the original, Max is able to convince him to blow up the theater.
Right.
And they do, and they try to, and they botch it up because they're all idiots. And a pretty hilarious sequence of just trying to get this bomb to go off. But in the remake, because we have our different ending focusing more on Max and Leo, Will Ferrell just breaks his legs, and we don't get that sequence at all.
And then he goes to jail too, I guess, for trying to shoot them.
He goes, or maybe just being a Nazi. I don't know. But also, there's another slight difference that Franz was also, in the remake, he was not just the writer, but he was supposed to be Hitler in the play.
Yeah.
So he got a little more singing he was able to do.
Das Deutsche Bahn, mit der Bang, mit der Boom, mit der Bing Bang, Bing Bang Boom.
Which was pointless too, because he's not going to be our Hitler.
Right.
So again, it's that remake doing that circle thing. It's like, okay, so we're here, Will Ferrell's doing this, and no, we're just back to here again. It was like what you said, like in a musical, you can probably do that because we got to fill some songs up. But in a movie, which is usually pretty linear, we're doing circles again, and this movie's a long one. Yeah. I'll say it again. It's a long one.
See, with Franz, in the early part, I'm loving what they're doing in the remake because Franz isn't very fleshed out in the original film. When you're even introduced to Franz, the biggest joke kind of leading into it isn't even Franz. It's the concierge at the bottom of the apartment stairs. So like you've got this comedic aspect going into the meeting with him. He's another character sort of similar to Ula where he does speak English and he speaks it pretty well, but like a lot of the jokes are that he breaks into like random German. He makes jokes about like I know nothing. Like I just did what I was told, and like he does all these like Nazi jokes, which again that's hard to pull off a character that basically is a Nazi in the film, but like they do it pretty well. Will Ferrell's take early on is phenomenal because it just fleshes out this character, and he gets this funny song. It's one of the better songs in the film when he's up there with the birds and stuff like that. And I'm loving that they're fleshing out the character. I'm even loving the fact that they're going to have him do the Hitler thing. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. What a nice twist on this. And no, my legs broke. It makes me want to say something about the music, but we're coming back to that.
We're so close to talking about the music. Hang on,
I know. Let's just a little bit longer. But I mean, Will Ferrell has some pretty good numbers in here, and he's a funnier version of the same character. And then they take out their own knees, play on the broken leg joke. It's like it's all right there. You keyed it up. Why'd you stop?
Yeah, I liked his portrayal. It's a little harder for me to separate Will Ferrell from his character, so I do just see Will Ferrell doing a German accent. I don't see a German guy. But I thought it was funny. I thought his first musical number was one of the more enjoyable musical numbers, especially that part where they're like doing the hand clap thing.
Fun.
I thought that was actually interesting to watch. Watch them all do that choreography. So it was a fun sequence. But yeah, he kind of gets the short end of the stick, especially towards the end. They just really give him nothing.
Yeah.
When his character had a pretty big part in the original.
Yeah. There's more to that character than just, okay, we made the jokes about him being, a secret Nazi, and like you said, in the other film, he gets to complain about the portrayal. He gets on stage to try to stop it from happening. He gets to shoot at them. He gets to blow up the building. Will Ferrell does get some decent dance numbers, but then the character just basically gets taken out. They still have the him trying to go after them scene, but at that point you're already, I don't know, already doesn't really matter anymore.
I mean, I'm getting a little bit ahead of it because we're going to talk about the directors in a bit, but like I just don't know why they couldn't just. I mean, he obviously loved Hitler, so just make him like a gay Nazi, and then you got your gay Hitler portrayal there instead of having to circle back around and now the director has to be Hitler. You could have just had Will Ferrell do all of that and just tweak the character a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, he's already a goofy character, so like, if he's doing his portrayal, and then he feels like the audience isn't getting it, what's the difference? Why does it have to be someone else? Like if. Like maybe during the play, he's not picking up on that they're laughing at him until later in the sequence. Like I don't know. There's a bunch of ways to play that.
Or maybe just have him literally like it, because it doesn't even matter that he gets mad at Max and Leo in the remake.
Right.
It's totally pointless. You didn't need him to chase them with a gun at all.
Yeah.
You could have just had him maybe do his portrayal, get laughed at it, realize, oh my god, they actually like me, and then he could have just basked in that limelight.
Or flip it the other way. If you're going to flip the director being the actor, how about Will Ferrell's acting doesn't match what the director wanted, and now the director wants to blow up the play,
Yeah,
you
there you
could do that. I mean, if you're going to do a flop, do that flop. I like the character, I like the character in both films, but it's just the same sequence doesn't happen to the character. So like Will Ferrell isn't in the audience. I mean, I guess he is, but like it's not the same. It's basically what I'm getting at. And the way they decided to change it around doesn't feel like it made a lot of sense logically.
No. Yeah. I mean, I think Will Ferrell did okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, though, I think it's hard for me to separate him from his roles, but I think ultimately his character was given the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give the nod to the original just because, they stuck to their guns with him as opposed to the remake.
See, like when it comes to the portrayal, I like Will Ferrell's portrayal more. I found it to be funnier, a little bit more modern. Like you said, it's hard to separate him from it. Maybe it's because I do like, in general, Will Ferrell's comedy. But then, again, they just undercut themselves, and the choices they make, I have to lean on the original character because it makes more sense.
Yeah, having him see the portrayal of Hitler, having him flip out, and then seeing what he does with it, the character goes somewhere.
Right.
Having Will Ferrell see the portrayal, him flipping out, and then he just breaks his own leg, it doesn't pay off as much as the original.
Yeah. When we get further into our discussion, I'll say exactly what I don't like about that. Yeah, just another moment where the remake could forge its own pathway, and when they do so, they actually just start muddling things up in a way. Like you said, this longer runtime is giving them more space to. Sometimes less is more, dude. Sometimes it really is, and we're losing it there. But
Yeah.
I guess we can go on to the next characters.
We had talked about him before a little bit. Our director, I'm going to sort of group his assistant in here as well. So we have our director, Roger, and his assistant, Carmen. They're portrayed by Christopher Hewitt and Andreas Valsinis in the original.
I see it! A line of beautiful girls dressed as stormtroopers.
And then we have Gary Beach and Roger Bart in the remake.
Springtime for Hitler.
They definitely get more to do in
Yes.
the remake, for sure. Like we said, our director actually portrays Hitler in the remake. Both very gay, flamboyant, or all those characters are pretty gay and flamboyant, but definitely more so in that remake.
Right. Yeah, the original. I mean, they're gay. That's it's like obviously it comes up in different moments in the film where people talk to them, but it doesn't like ultra define
Exactly.
the
yeah.
character.
It's like it really does in the remake.
Yeah. In the remake, they're basically walking gay stereotypes.
Yeah.
They're obsessed with the Tonys. They're obsessed with kick lines in a way that it's there in the original, but like it's just a little more subtle. Like they obviously have this relationship when Carmen comes in and he says, like, "No, we're not alone," and he's dressed up in the wig and the dress and stuff like that. Yeah, okay, the guy happens to be gay, but like he's focusing more on the play and his role in it. And in this remake, we go everywhere before we get back to. So is he going to direct a play?
Got it.
It just I don't know, man. I'm not a huge fan of where they went.
Yeah. I'm gonna kind of go off what you said, and they really lean on the gay in the remake. It's like, okay, he's gay and his assistant. They're together in the original. It's a little funny at first, but they lean on it so much more in the remake. It's like not only are they gay, but they live with all these gay men, and then they have to make the play gay.
Yeah.
Like everything about them is gay, gay, gay. Get it?
Yeah.
They're gay, so everything's gay. It's like, all right,
isn't it?
Yes.
Isn't it insane that you take a movie from 1967 where people probably don't even want to like broach the subject? There's probably not many, if any, positive portrayals of gay people in media, and they took this character. They let it be funny, but they didn't just make fun of him for being gay. And I'm not saying the remake is necessarily making fun of him, but like, how is the 1967 film a more like subtle and nuanced take on gay culture than a movie that came out in 2005? I don't know how they fucked that up, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, especially by today's standards, it's I don't know. Like, I feel like people in the gay community would be pretty pissed.
Yeah.
If by the remake's portrayals, it's so, like you said, just like the stereotypical thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're all just dressed in drag or all these weird clothes, and they're always singing and dancing. Yeah. It's like,
even in a film, well, both films do it. So like, say anyway, but like even when Max Bialystock, he calls him the slur. He calls him a fruit. I mean, that's really the worst thing. Yeah. They have to say about gay people in that original film. They really aren't saying anything about him other than the fact that they're in a relationship. I guess
he was in a dress. That was a little weird that he was in a dress, but it's okay.
But even that, it was funny because he's playing I forget who it was, like the Duchess of something. No, the Princess Anastasia, and they make the exact same joke in the remake, and it's like,
Yeah.
so if the joke hasn't aged, again, I don't know how they screwed that up because the original film is a better portrayal of gay culture than a movie that came out in 2005. So, edge to the to the original.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we'll talk about it more when we get to the musical numbers,
Absolutely.
but yeah, for sure, the original. And then, like, I guess we'll talk about this too because he portrays Hitler. But let's talk about the original portrayal of Hitler. So we have LSD portraying Hitler. It's Dick Shawn.
Springtime for Hitler. A gay romp with Adolf and Eva at Berchtesgaden.
And then, like we said, Gary Beach portrays Hitler. Two very different portrayals of Hitler.
Yes.
Like we said, the remake, very gay. And the original, how would you describe that portrayal of Hitler?
He's kind of like a hippie man, it comes out, dude, and he's a beatnik, really.
Yeah, that's the word I kept thinking of, just this kind of beatnik.
Yeah. He's like a real beatnik. I like the portrayal, he comes in that first scene, he's got his boots all the way up to his thighs, and he's got his little chorus girls in the background playing music, and
yeah, looking like they're in a fucking Robert Palmer video, just kind of.
Yeah, and it's cool because he's like a breath of fresh air, like in the sense that there's no other character like him in the film. He solves a problem that they're having in the film is they can't find their Hitler, and now he introduces his character, and he's in the moment where they're looking for a Hitler, solves the problem. Whereas in the remake, you couldn't find a Hitler. You found your Hitler, you got rid of your Hitler, and then you made another Hitler, and that's going to be the Hitler, but the other guy still wants to be Hitler. It's too much.
It's definitely too much. What did you think about the gay Hitler?
They already made the gay joke. You made it for 20 minutes already. So what are we doing?
Yeah.
I think that if you, again, addition of subtraction, I think if you make less gay jokes on the front end, I'll give you more gay jokes during the Hitler sequence, but you have mined that resource. There is nothing left for you to pull out of this, and I could see if you took some of that stuff out of it, I could see that change making sense, the audience making fun of a gay Hitler, and I could see that type of satire being actually really funny because you take this this ultra kind of master race guy who had all these terrible ideas about what's ultimately the right way to live your life or who's the best, and you just fucking shit on him. But not just because he's gay. That's really what it should be. The joke isn't, wouldn't it be funny if Hitler was gay? It's yeah, I guess it's funny to take him down in that way, but they don't do enough to elevate gay culture to make the joke.
No, I think when you really think
offensive.
about it, it's pretty offensive. Yeah, because the original Hitler, okay, what if Hitler was this kind of spaced out hippie who didn't really know what the fuck he's talking about? That you could go many ways with that. That's an interesting portrayal. But then saying, what if Hitler was gay? Isn't that funny? Let's make fun of him for being gay. It's whoa, this is pretty offensive, isn't it?
Because I mean, ultimately, if you really break that down, why would that change his behavior? Him being gay or not, he's still Hitler. So then what are you saying about gay people? It's just it's a mess.
It's a one-note joke that when you think about it doesn't really work. Right. Beyond just saying Hitler's gay. Yeah. Once you get past those initial 5 seconds of Hitler's gay, and then now what? You're not really doing anything with it. But you got that fucking beatnik Hitler who's like, man, we're Germany, so we can't invade Germany. Just one of these weird realizations. It's like a fucking drugged out hippie Hitler would. I think it's the stronger portrayal of Hitler. I think it's especially by today's standards, the less offensive portrayal.
It was
of Hitler.
Funnier, man. It was just funnier.
It was.
Yeah.
So points to the original director and assistant, points to the original portrayal of Hitler. It was just too much in the remake. They just relied on the gay too much, and then it just starts getting offensive after
Yeah.
a while. I mean, I don't want to sound like a fucking
Nah.
PC person, but like it's a little heavy
Yeah.
on the gay. Come on,
Yeah.
if you're gonna do something with gay, maybe I don't know. Don't just keep saying he's gay. I don't. You can't just keep saying that over and over
Like,
again.
and again, it's a pretty stereotypical portrayal. You can't have him skip into the room. You can't have him, kind of like the effects with the wrist and stuff. Like you can't do all that and not say anything. You know, like if Hitler then made a decision about like something as simple as the uniforms, if you had him say, like, I'm working on making the uniforms, and like that's your gay joke. Like I don't know, but like just him being gay, like there's not enough there. There's nothing there, to be honest. You know, and like I said, there's a way to do it and for it to work. You know, so I'm not saying that a gay Hitler portrayal can't be funny, but like they didn't do it funny, so it's a miss.
Like it could be funny. Like I'm gonna bring up a movie I really like now, Jojo Rabbit. There's a couple. You seen?
I haven't seen it yet, but
there's a couple Nazis in there, and there's pretty sure they're gay, but like they don't just rely on that. You know, the gay thing is brought in subtly, and then they're funny for other reasons.
Right.
It's like, I mean, obviously it's a different movie, but
right.
But it can be like to your point, it can be done without just relying on the one note joke of he's gay, huh?
Right.
Huh?
Right.
Ah.
Because then you just have like a stereotype that, like I was saying before, happens to be a historical figure, but you're not saying anything specifically about the historical figure. You haven't written anything to make a Hitler funny. You know what I mean? Like the hippie thing, that scene where ich liebe nine. You know what I mean? Like just like she loves me not. Like that's funny. Like you come into this thing and Hitler's like at the piano, he's struggling, man. And it's like, baby, always talking about leaving. It's a funny.
It is funny.
Like,
baby, the film does not say baby. And then you have Franz there. It's a well thought out character, Reggie.
I mean, one of my biggest things watching the original was saying, wow, I'm surprised I'm finding this as funny as I am. And there wasn't any caveat. This is funny for 1967. This is funny I was like, this is just funny. I'm enjoying this. And then the remake, I bet there's a window where this shit was hilarious. And that window has passed. It just doesn't stand the test of time, unlike the original portrayal.
No, the original portrayal definitely stands the test of time a lot better than just pretty sure it's offensive these days, what they did with the remake.
You know what I would have loved, and I'm sure there's a reason why. I mean, the Broadway play is probably completely different. Like, I would have loved to see like a Robin Williams playing like the Dick Shawn character.
Honestly, that's who came in mind. Like as soon as I saw him, like Robin Williams would have been.
Oh my god! Like Robin Williams comes out, hey, what's up, man?
Yeah.
Hey, daddy.
And then just doing his various little Robin Williams. It's like that would have been so good. Like 60s, I guess he wasn't really a thing then. So, but yeah, like missed opportunity to remake, because that would have been what a casting that would have been, huh? If you just had him, but don't have to rely on the gay thing. You could just do what they did in the original.
Yeah, I mean, like someone like Robin Williams who could sing, can dance, can act, and just have him just build out another character, because you had your moment with Roger Debris. You had your moment with the musical number and the singing and stuff like that. So let's actually add another character like they did in the original film and draw a direction in another type of comedy. But like you said, they just doubled down on gay jokes. And it's like, well, like I was saying before, you've done this for so long already. I just don't have much left in me to care.
All right. So that pretty much covers all of the characters that are different. Now there's maybe some slightly different things done in the remake, but we might have already covered them when we were talking about the characters. So let me just check my list here.
I think we're in the musical numbers.
We're in the musical numbers? Okay. All right, so never mind. We are just going to go straight to those musical numbers. But before that, I'm going to start off with this. The runtime, Reggie. Our original film is a beautiful 88 minutes.
Hey, succinct.
While our remake is a whopping 134 minutes, almost 50 more minutes than the original. Granted, there's musical numbers in there.
Sure.
I should explain it, but 46 more minutes of movie. Dude, this is where the episode's gonna really reach its point. Like, should they have done this?
So 46 more minutes to tell effectively the same story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now there are times where you're adding or again subtracting because you're doing something different. You know, like if we're watching, I'm trying to think, like Solaris. When we watched that, remake was shorter, but for a reason. And you know, you can say whatever you want about that runtime, but like they made logical cuts. Here's my problem with the musical numbers before we even start talking about them specifically.
Okay.
The original film cracks a joke, you digest a joke, and you move on, right? This movie, you crack the joke, and it's like, oh shit, there's that joke from the original film, and then 5 minutes of something I don't give two shits about, just and now I'm just stuck in it for the next however long they're gonna do this song, and then maybe the song will turn into a dance thing that will then turn into more song, and it's just like they just demolish the beats with these ridiculous over the top numbers. But I digress.
No, spoiler alert. Like, I checked out mentally halfway through each musical number because you get the point, you get what the song's about. Now we're just self-indulging at this point. We just want to show you more sets, more choreography, hear more of the song. A big problem I have is not only the amount of musical numbers, but just how long they are. And I think everyone could have benefited from being cut in half. I honestly do.
I think you're 100% right. Even the songs that I like, there is that moment, and it's usually around the minute 3 mark where it's like, hey, wait a minute, what are we doing? Because I mean, let's just go through each of them and where we think the sins lie.
Okay, so we have our first musical number. It's opening night. This is a interesting musical number. It's different. It's a different opening from our original. Our original film starts with Max Bialystock doing his little sleaze with the old lady. Right. Which I think is a little drawn out.
Touch me, hold me. Yeah. It is, because they do two different old ladies in that scene.
Yeah. So, like, the whole time, it's just, like, Max going back and forth with this old lady, which is a funny joke. But, I mean, we made fun of the remake for kind of relying on that gay joke. They really, like, hammer in that. Like, he's banging old ladies in the opening of the original. It wasn't one of my least favorite parts of the original, just because it takes so long. I actually think the remake was pretty good here with their musical number. It's opening night. One of Max Bialystock's plays is out, and then they're just describing it, and they're letting you know about Max, about his history, that this is another flop that he has, and that he's going to keep making these flops, and it's a kind of a short one, too. Yeah. So I think, overall, the first musical number was good. I think it was better opening than the original, actually.
Yeah, I would say the weakest part of the original is the intro. They do spend a lot of time with some filler for Max that could be fleshed out. You could remove the first old woman, and just start at the second old woman, but like, I think they were trying to establish that he's doing this a lot, but there's different ways to establish that.
I think the remake actually did a pretty good job there.
Yeah.
Because Nathan Lane, like, you know, you're introduced to him and Leo first, and then, like, the old lady comes and he's like, he hears her, and then he's like, hold me, touch me, hold me, touch me. And he's like going through all the different phrases as he looks at each picture.
Right.
So I thought I'll give it the remake for, you know, every scene that it does drag out. There, it was able to, like, okay, Leo's a creep and he sleeps with all his old ladies, and here it is. We're not going to beat you over the head with it. And they do kind of with the original.
Yeah. I would say that I think any musical you watch, unless it's like really, really, really bad, that opening song is usually going to be a pretty damn good one. This was a well done song. It tells you everything you need to know to jump into the story. So if you've never seen The Producers, you could start right there and you're all caught up. for the rest of the story. So I think you're right. The original does that well, and the remake does that well in a way the original does not. I would say that is the weakest point of the original is the intro.
Yeah. And then we have musical number 2. This is when Max and Leo discover, or when Leo, I should say, discovers that they can make more money off of a flop than a hit. They have this song that's We Can Do It. It's an okay song.
Yeah.
It's pretty much Max trying to convince Leo to commit fraud with him. I would say I would give it more praise, but then immediately after, we have another musical with Leo on his own talking about, like, oh, work sucks, life sucks. And that musical number I don't like.
You're talking about the accounting firm?
Yeah.
You know, I like the set, and I like the way they use the keyboards or the typewriters as part of the song. It does drag on a little bit too long. I think if it's a shorter song, I like it more. But like, you're right. At this point, the film hasn't tested our patience yet. You know,
Right.
intro's okay. We can do it. All right, whatever. Serviceable.
Yeah.
Will he? Won't he? Song. But you're right. Then you go right into the accounting thing, which I like it to an extent, but then it goes on. You know.
Yeah.
And it's like
Oh, go
ahead.
And like I was just saying, we just had that musical number, and then we're thrown into another musical number pretty quickly. So, and it's a much longer musical number.
Unhappy, yeah.
It was just like I said, cut it in half maybe, but it was just too close to musical numbers, and they're pretty much trying to do the same thing, convince Leo to do it, and it felt redundant to me. I thought it was cool. It looked cool, definitely, the accounting thing, but didn't need it.
No, especially when you think that song actually resets. So you start with everyone being unhappy at work, and you know he's there unhappy as well. And then who's that?
John
Lovitz. Yes, thank you. It stinks.
You've already had your toilet break.
So then, like John Lovitz comes in, who pretty good character too. I mean, not really worth us bringing him up in the character section, but nice cameo. Plays a decent angry boss, but he comes in, kind of resets the entire scene, and then they kind of go back into it, and then he's like, "No, I'm going to do whatever I want," and then Lovitz is upset. Like it's too much. It's too much. Like you said, either start before or after the Lovitz kind of interruption, and I think you'll be fine with whichever direction you go because you don't need both. For me, the stuff that was shining for me, and you know, we'll talk about this in another music number that's coming up, but like, I like the big cast stuff. I like that you're doing, you know, using the typewriters and stuff like that as part of the music. I just don't like how long it goes on. That's it.
Yeah.
You know?
Agreed. I might have tolerated it if it was shorter, but that third song is so much longer than it needs to be. So much longer.
Yeah. And like you said, at this point, he already kind of, like you said, we know he's going to do it. So you're right. You could have resolved that in song 2. So to have him say, I can't do it. And then to, like you said, immediately, there's no breakup there. Like nothing breaks that scene up. And I think if you had broken it up a little bit, more dialogue, maybe Max following him to the accounting job, maybe Max being there at the accounting job. So that at that point, like the two numbers are effectively the same number. I think it would have made more sense than making it seem like you're splitting up this sequence.
I just feel like you could have done when you did the We Can Do It. Just we can do it. Yeah, let's do it. Let's not have another scene and then convince you to do it. I also kind of miss what they did in the original. You know, took him to the park. Yeah. Took him gave him a balloon. He went on a Ferris wheel. You know, treating him like the child he is.
Right.
Some funny stuff in that original. That's definitely missing in the remake. But we'll go on to the next musical number.
Sure.
Okay, this is the 4th musical number. We're trying to convince Franz to make his play. Again, we kind of referenced this before when we talked about Will Ferrell. This is, for me, one of the more interesting
I agree.
Musical sequences. I thought I think the choreography is pretty interesting. I don't know, the knee slapping thing, that caught my imagination. I was like, this is kind of cool to watch. So one of the stronger musical sequences in the remake.
Yeah, I remember I was watching that sequence with my wife, and we were both actually at this point still having fun.
At this point.
and there's all these little like funny beats that are still happening that you're able to tolerate. But like when the bird throws up the Sig Heil, I'm just like, oh my god,
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
this is so over the top and ridiculous. Like you said, the kind of like the percussion off of like each other's knees and stuff like that. Like that was fun. Pretty good choreography, and it's a fun song. Starts to get a little long, but like I'm tolerating it because it's a new character. It's Will Ferrell, and he's doing a very funny job. But that should have been the warning to me that anything that I think that I'm liking is going to start getting into the space where I no longer like it. And it's not a sequence where that one gets a pass, but it's starting to get there for me.
Exactly. It's treading thin ice at this point. It's like, all right, the musical numbers have got to be pretty amazing because at this point you're starting to figure out that, okay, they're all a little bit longer than I want. And
right.
How many more are there? And are they all going to be this good?
Right.
And spoiler, they're not. Here we go. Moving on. Musical number 5. This is when we're trying to convince Roger to be the director. This is the gay one. Go on, Reggie.
Right.
Have at it.
All right. Yeah, so in the original film, right, Carmen comes out to the front door, takes him in, and introduces him to Robert, and there's a whole sequence where, oh my God, he's wearing a dress. All right, cool, got it. Basically getting the same beat in this remake. And then Roger, it's not just Roger and Carmen. It's Roger, Carmen, and like his basically stagehands, for lack of a better word. It's the costume designer. It's the choreographer. All stuff. So all these, like, again, different types of stereotypical gay people come trouncing down the stairs, and they go into this insane number. And here is where I start to jump off the ship completely. Here's my biggest gripe with this entire film. I'm glad I can finally say it out loud. Is these music numbers have nothing to do with the fucking story that's being told. Nothing to do with it. Like, that could have been any other musical. Make it gay, like it. All right, I get it. I'm with you. I'm with these guys. I love the theater. I love camp. I fucking love it. But the problem is, this has nothing, and I mean nothing, to do with the story of the producers. And it is long, bro. I think it's like 10 minutes long. I don't know. I can't prove that, but I think it is.
It is definitely one of the longer musical numbers in the movie. And yeah, I was watching this with my wife, and this was the musical number that's like, all right, this is way too fucking long. Yeah, they, okay, I get it. Make it gay. Right. Sure.
Got it.
And then let's sing about it for the next, like you said, 10 minutes.
I mean,
like, really?
Who are these guys that are never going to be in the rest of the film? They don't come back. The choreographer doesn't do the choreography. The costume designer's not there doing costumes. They're just gay tropes coming down the staircase.
No.
And then they have this whole sequence about the Tony. Oh my God, Tony. Like, guys, I get it. I get it. Broadway culture, gay culture in theaters, the Tony Awards, and like that connection to the gay community. Like, I understand that you were trying to, speak to a group that is, been hugely influential in theater. It just doesn't have anything to do with Max Bialystock and Leo Bloom. It doesn't have anything to do with Springtime to Hitler. And I get it. Maybe move that sequence to right before he becomes Hitler. And he's making Hitler gay. Like, I don't know, but like where it is, why is it in this film? Because I could put it into almost any other musical film and it's not going to feel out of place at all.
It's like I said, it's a little overly indulgent. I mentally check out
So checked
I
out.
was lost as soon as the people started walking down the stairs. I'm like, holy shit! Where this is? I'm. God damn it! I gotta be on this ride now. I don't know. So you make it gay, yeah. That you could do that 1 minute song, but why you have to drag it out for so fucking long? And I'll say this too. Like, if you've never seen this before, you might be lost in the plot. Like, what am I
Right.
supposed to be following? Which journey am I following again? Because like, it's a simple plot, but like, you get lost in these musical numbers. You're like, wait, where were we and where are we now? What the fuck
Right.
is happening? You can
Right.
get lost because they're so fucking long.
It doesn't matter if you make it
No.
gay or not. It doesn't matter. What does that have to do with
I-
making the play a flop? What does that have to do with the script? Like, what does it have to do with the story being told? And if you can't answer the question, other than a director of a Broadway musical is gay, you know, get in line, buddy. You know what I mean? Like I'm sorry. Like, and I get it because they're playing up this camp and they're playing up the theater of it all. Wrong story. It's the wrong story.
That was not one of the good ones. But we'll move on, Reggie, because I could see you.
No, but I mean, like, I do want to say this to be fair to them. I don't hate the musical number. I love the set piece. I love what they do with it, but it doesn't fit in the story. And
no, they're not bad. They're not. It's not like, oh man, this song is terrible, or like their choreography is terrible, or the costumes are terrible. But it's like, I want the story, man.
Right.
Like, I get it. Like I said, like, you could shorten these songs so much and they'd be so much more powerful than dragging them out. Now I'm fucking dreading that I'm here.
Yeah.
And all I want is more story. You're hurting it by giving me so much.
Yeah. And I think we're going to get to this as we kind of break down these other songs. The level of song that we're getting has not risen to what we know and we're going to get from the original film. And I know we're about to get to that section, but there is not really a song so far that I can say is one of those things where even if you're not watching the musical, might be on your iPod, as it were. You know, like, we'll get to the sort of the title big sort of song that plays, but like, this stuff isn't going to be remembered as these huge Broadway classics. These are filler musical numbers. And if you're doing a musical, the strength is the music. And if the music is weak, then we got a problem.
And going back to your point, it's like, it has nothing to do with the plot. All these musical numbers, except for the opening one, which gave us, you know, some backstory, like, none of these are important to help drive the story forward.
Yeah. If anything, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and plenty of musicals we've seen. I mean, we just did Little Shop of Horrors recently. We were talking about how those musical numbers, you know, they helped flesh out characters, they helped progress the story, and these musical numbers are just so self-indulgent and just musical numbers for the sake of musical numbers.
Right.
And I'm not enjoying that.
Musicals are already, that's a tough ask. You know, it's a tough ask for someone to, like, literally put together a musical, like, production, because on its face, it's pretty much hokey, and if you know, you have to be the type of person that enjoys a musical, I think. And at its highest level, it can be fun, comedic, powerful. Like you said, Little Shop of Horrors, I thought was funny. I saw the Toxic Avenger off Broadway one time. That was fun.
My god, that sounds funny as shit, man.
It's fun as hell, man. Fun as hell. And we're definitely not at this part in the conversation yet, but like, I'm thinking of another film that came out around this time, and we talked about Moulin Rouge. That is a musical that I'm perfectly fine with. I don't care how long songs get, because each song has a point. It's tied to a character. It's building the plot. It's explaining something that's going on. And, you know, like, maybe there's one or two errant sort of misfires, but like, in general, a cohesive musical story is what we're looking for from a musical. And this is not a cohesive story.
All right, so let's go on to musical number 6. This is Ula's musical number, When You Got It, Flaunt It.
Loved it.
What?
Loved it. She was great.
Uma looks great in it. Unfortunately, like we said, it gives her this false sense of agency. We're like, oh, she's going to be a strong character. Doesn't really go anywhere with it. I mean, she looks great in it.
Great.
That's kind of She's got a great ass. That's kind of the whole point of this musical number, just to see Uma Thurman shake her ass and her tits.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah. And look, I get it, guys. Appreciate you trying to throw me a bone here. I needed some sort of life raft with everything that was going on. Look, I love Uma Thurman. I thought she was great. I thought she looked great. I think that she brought something to that character. Doesn't have anything to do with the character. I mean, yes, she has it and she flaunts it, but like, if your 5 minute music number doesn't tell me more than 10 seconds of a chick shaking her titties in a '60s film, what are we doing, guys? But no,
yeah, like you said, she doesn't do anything with that agency. She just I like you, Leo, for some reason.
Look,
yeah, I don't know.
This was one for the costume designers. This was one for any potentially heterosexual person that was watching the film.
Any Uma Thurman fan that's like, man, I like Kill Bill, but I wish she showed her body a little bit more. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and to be fair, it is one of the stronger musical numbers. It was okay, but again, now we're doing another musical, and it's about to be followed up by another musical number. Like it's too close to another musical number.
Yeah, so right after Uma's introduced, Max is like, I gotta go make the money. So he goes to make the money in another musical number about banging the old ladies. And while it's interesting, a bunch of old lady choreography with walkers could be interesting. Did I need to see Max collect all the checks one by one by one by one by one?
Oh, with the knockdowns and yeah.
I get it. He's got to bang a bunch of old ladies, but again, it's just drawn out, and I'm exhausted from the last musical number that just happened. So I am, I was definitely there for the Umas,
right?
Because it's with Thurman, but for this musical number, it's just like, all right, I get he's banging old ladies. How long is this one gonna be? I should have timed each one of these.
Yeah, it's actually, again, this one, I would say, out of the original music, may still be, especially in choreographies, the strongest song. Doesn't feel like it, but it might be. And like you said, like you're watching, like the Walker, again, I like when they take set pieces, whether it's typewriters or walkers and stuff like that, and integrate it into the music. Like that's a nice little Broadway trick. Yeah, but like you said, then at the end he high fives basically fucking 6 miles worth of people playing old ladies, and like you said, he's got all these checks. They're all made like, again, the joke was there in the original, like we said before. You didn't need to make it a 5-minute joke. Decent sequence, too long, and unfortunately too close to another music number. Which to follow this up, and I know I'm starting to get a little manic over here, but this music number is followed by another music number. So let's talk about that one.
Okay, so we have the about that face. That I guess is what this one's called, and it's the love song between Ula and Leo, and this is probably one of my least favorite musical numbers in the film, because not only is it a musical number, but it has a dance sequence in the middle of it.
Does it?
So we're just watching them, and there's no dialogue, it's no song, there's no vocal part. They're just dancing for like a minute solid.
Right.
And you're just like, you're just so exhausted at this point, man.
Yeah, it's exhausting. I mean, the song is more or less like Leo explaining why he's not like, making any advances on Ula, which is just his childlike nature, which we're already aware of. Ula being kind of confused by that interaction, because I guess every interaction she has with men tends to be a little bit different. And then by the end, she's singing about his face. So they flip it. So he likes her, then turns out she likes him. So, oh boy, they like each other. The only thing of consequence that really comes from it is that he gets rid of his blue blanket, which you don't see in the original film. However, doesn't matter, because basically almost within the next 2 or 3 music numbers, he's going to pick that blanket right back up. So wasted space. We already know they like each other. You don't need to spend that much time on them singing about it.
This is a little off topic, but just in general, what did you think about Leo and Ula getting together. Do you think that was a good decision, or you think they should have just gave it the kibosh?
The kibosh, in this sense, it's not really there in the original film. In this remake, I understand why you would do it, and there's a way to do it. They just didn't do it the right way. So,
Yeah.
in that respect, I would say the kibosh. But if they had done it right, I think that it's actually a smart play. It gives Leo like something, like you said, agency. It gives both of them,
Yeah.
It gives both of them growth and agency in a way that's not there in the original film, which you could take that and really run with it in a compelling way. And it is a shame that that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I like the setup of it. Definitely don't like the way it pans out, and it definitely doesn't go anywhere. So ultimately, it was pointless.
Yeah, I would rather they have done a singing and dance number like that in Rio. I think the set could have been interesting. I think that you could have had a lot of fun with that. And then at the end, and I'm telling you, I'm saying the last 10 seconds of that song, not Max, but Leo could be like, I've got to go back. Now, does it make sense? Hell no. But give these guys something to work with. And I think that some sort of sequence in Rio, actually, I could have gotten down with. And I think it could have explained him coming back, other than them just putting them in like white suits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been a better place, because I don't need to see the romance bloom. Like, maybe she could have it would have made her trying to convince him to leave with the millions of dollars like more compelling, because they're not necessarily together yet.
Right.
And then you could see that kind of blossom. We could see it bloom.
Right.
In Rio. So I think that would be a better place. There actually was a Rio musical number.
Yeah.
That, believe it or not, Reggie, got cut.
Wow.
They actually cut things from the remake. But we'll never know.
Because here's how I would have approached it, right? I would have taken the Flaunted song and had like just a little bit of like that kind of fade out innuendo at the end where like she says something to Leo that kind of piques his interest, and then they just play on that a little bit more. You don't even have to go into a dance number, but like you realize that they like each other. Done,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Move on, and then if you want to do that dance sequence, do that shit in Rio, because at that point they like each other, and they're explaining their master plan or something like that, and then he realized he has to go back and help his buddy.
Yeah, I'm not gonna disagree with that. That definitely sounds better and more interesting than what I saw.
Yeah. So the sad part about it is that sequence, Your Face or whatever the hell it's called. It's a good dance number.
It is, and then when they do Behind the Couch would be, I think it's interesting to see on Broadway.
Yes,
I think it'd be funny to see on Broadway, see that old lady pop out of nowhere, but in the sense of like the context of a movie, and a movie that's already feeling a little long at this point.
Yeah,
I mean very long at this point. I was hating it more than I was enjoying it.
Yeah, I think that we're coming back to that thing where a lot of the stuff you can do on Broadway, you can't do in the film.
No, you can't. They're completely different mediums, and I definitely got the sense that they try to just do a one-to-one, like, okay, we'll just do everything we did on Broadway and we'll just put it on film and it'll work. It doesn't work.
There's a reason like the Baz Luhrmann like Chicago works, and it's because it's stylized. Like, yes, they took the songs from this Broadway production, but like it's all stylized. It all fit.
Let's go on to the next musical number, which is the Hitler auditions, and this is where Will Ferrell does another funny song. In the boom, in the boom, in the boom. Another funny scene, but ultimately pointless because he's not going to be your Hitler.
He's not going to be your Hitler, and it's not funnier than the first scene where he did basically the same thing. Just like they did too many gay jokes, they did too many German jokes, because there's not that song, like I said, isn't different enough or of a better quality than the first Will Ferrell song, so it's kind of pointless.
Not gonna lie, I was definitely checked out at this point, so I was like, okay, I guess he's Hitler. So here we go. Oh, yeah, wait, but it doesn't matter, because in the next musical number, Reggie.
Yes.
We're told the rules of Broadway, how you don't say good luck.
Yeah.
That you're supposed to say break a leg, and irony of ironies, if Franz doesn't go ahead and break that leg.
Yeah. See, this song sequence reminded me of Make It Gay. Again, I got it. Broadway can be a very like inclusive.
Superstitious?
Yeah, like superstitious, but like the cool thing about Broadway is that in a way that culturally, like maybe this country and a lot of places in the world has been a more accepting and like positive place for gay people. With that comes its own sort of culture and dynamics. To your point, you've got the break a leg dynamic in theater, which is you don't say good luck, you say break a leg. And the joke is they're saying good luck because they want it to be a flop. And then the guy breaks his leg. Again, a song about like you said, the superstition of Broadway tells me nothing about my characters. You know, it's kind of funny because they're saying, you know, break a leg. They're supposed to say break a leg and they're not because,
Right.
but like that's not.
They're doing all these like ladders and broken mirrors.
Yeah,
and every bad luck thing you could possibly think of.
Got it. And then honestly, I would probably like it more if the guy doesn't break his leg at the end. I think, like, I get why that's the sort of logical culmination of that joke, but it's not a great joke. So I mean, could you imagine taking every bad joke you've ever heard and stretching it out for 6 minutes?
Yeah, the punchline is not worth the long ass setup.
No,
absolutely,
no, not.
So, again, this is the 10th musical.
Oh my
so
God.
at this point, I was just like, okay, we're talking about this now, and I really don't give a shit. I just can we get to springtime for Hitler? That's all I'm here for, man.
Which I know we're going to talk about, and I do want to talk about that. The fact that I'm glad that you numbered these because even though we just talked about them just now, I don't think I can name 10 different songs that were in this film.
I couldn't name them. I know If You Got It, Flaunt It. That one I remember because of Uma. She's good in it.
The flaunt, she looked great, by the way. Let's just focus on the positive. Uma Thurman.
You got Uma Thurman to do that. So
good God, she looked great.
Good on you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, some good Uma.
But all right, so again, another song we don't give a fuck about, but which means we're probably closer to the song we do care about.
Yes, and this is it. We're finally here, Reggie. Our opening number of Springtime for Hitler, and the song is, of course, Springtime for Hitler and Germany.
Springtime for Hitler and Germany.
So, the musical number, which is from the original, pretty much the same. Maybe Uma, since she's supposed to be the lead actress, we see a female face.
Yeah.
That's a little more prominent than the original. But it still kind of looks the same. I mean, the women are dressed in these weird German outfits. Yeah. Like, the pretzel lady was still there. Like, I was like, okay, they still got the pretzel lady. That's good.
Yeah. Now, like, tonally, because I think you're more keyed into music. The number, does it feel a little bit more slowed down for you than the original? Like,
I don't know. I didn't notice that. I wasn't paying attention to that. So I'm going to say I didn't notice that.
Okay. I'm with you. There was a point where I'm like, you know what? As much as this garbage I had to listen to, we're gonna get the song. And like you said, the portrayal like on screen looked good. And I mean, it's pretty much like you said, they're hitting the same notes as the original film. Maybe a little bit more elaborate and fleshed out in some respects. I felt like they did, like, whether it was like a note change, like a tempo change, there was something about it that just kind of that threw me off a little bit. I'm not going to dwell on it too much because I can't really put my I can't really point out exactly what that is. I don't know. Like, I still, in this instance, preferred the original Springtime for Hitler in the way that they portrayed it. I think it's close enough that you can call it a tie, I guess. But I'm still leaning towards the original because there's something about the way it's presented, the way the audience reacts and things like that, and just it's such a brilliant number, man. It's so good that I can't shit on either one, but I prefer the original.
I think it could also be that you're just like so much musical fatigue at that point. You're just like, all right, another musical. So it kind of, like having so many musical numbers, you kind of take away the magic of the important musical number when it's finally there. So that could be playing into what you heard. But overall, like, because they didn't do anything necessarily new with it, it started off with the people in their lederhosen, and then to an Aryan guy. This time he was blonde-haired and blue-eyed. But it was pretty much, the same thing. I didn't see anything new. So every time it's the same, I'm just going to give the nod to the original since they did it first.
This was it. This was like, your notes pretty much say it all. I mean, this is the 11th song in the film. I mean, if you're talking about 11 songs, think about that, because we were talking about the runtime. Think about an album.
Exactly, yeah.
And like if you have a single or something like that, like the hit song off an album, it's not the 11th song. Sometimes it's the third song. Sometimes it's the fifth song. But like, you kind of want to get to the good shit a little bit earlier. And I just felt like, you're sitting there waiting for this moment where we're going to do Springtime for Hitler because this is the big masterpiece song. By the time it comes, like you said, the music fatigue is set in, especially considering it just followed like Break a Leg. So now I'm just, I'm done. You got to the good part, but even that, it's like, it's just, now it feels flat. It's a shame because I think if you take 3 to honestly 4 music numbers out, I'm not throwing any of these complaints in there, but I got to complain because it took too long to get to the good stuff.
Yeah. And I think because we've been doing so many musical numbers already, there's been so much pretty, well put together choreography. I mean, they're long as shit. So I you lose me, but like, they're able to do a lot more with the choreography for the other songs because it takes place in the real world, so they can spread it out. But this musical number is stuck on a stage, right? Because it's a play. So they're not able to be as elaborate as the other musical numbers. So in the original film, since it's pretty much our first musical number, not including LSD's solo song there, but it's it's the first time we've seen a bunch of people singing together. We see all this choreography. You see the fucking swastika from the or bird's eye view. So when you see that in the original movie, it's like, wow, even though this is supposed to be a shitty play, they worked on this, So it's impressive in its own right. But then you see it in the remake when we've already seen so many dance numbers, so much choreography already. It doesn't match it because it's restricted to being on a stage.
So basically, you're saying they've done better choreography for shittier songs.
Yeah, is exactly what I'm saying. Like you said, like the typewriter thing, even though I didn't like the musical number, it's more interesting. Using the old lady's walker things is really interesting.
Yes.
But just having people walking downstairs in weird outfits is not interesting visually compared to those things.
Yeah, see, like the original film, you're following these two characters and their harebrained scheme, and it doesn't make any sense. And the culmination of their nonsense. That fucking song, that portrayal, that like it comes out of nowhere, and it's phenomenal. Like, you can tell that you took like that Mel Brooks genius, all the crazy thoughts that are in that man's head, and he got the chance to put them into something. And I mean, 50, whatever, 60 years later, I'm looking at it and I absolutely love it. I think it's one of the greatest things that I've seen in film, and the remake, it hits the notes. It's doing it, and I'm not begrudging it because they literally are doing basically the same thing. But to your point, it's already been done. And the other point is that means they could have pushed it because they pushed it on these songs that don't matter. So like, let's push that should have been crazy. There should have been like fireworks and explosions and stuff like that because this is the whole reason we're all here. It's like going to see a concert. It's like, play Freebird, play Springtime for Hitler and make it count. And they do a good job, but they've sandwiched it in between so much other stuff that I stopped caring about the thing I wanted to see in the first place.
It's a shame. But don't worry, Reggie, because there's more musical numbers ahead. I'm just gonna go to the next one.
Yeah, let's just go.
It starts off with that one I mentioned before, that Rio musical number, but then they cut that. Thank God. But we still have another musical number with Max in jail, in his jail cell, singing about being betrayed. And at this point, I didn't give a shit anymore. I barely paid attention to this song.
You know what's the worst part about this song? The worst part is that the song references all the other songs that they already did.
Oh, yes, that is the worst part of the song. We have to relive everything that we've experienced already. Oh, God, it's like one of those fucking old video games where you have to fight the bosses again. That's exactly what it was like.
We can do it.
And yeah, he's acting out all the parts.
Break a leg.
Yeah.
We can do it. I'm just like, no, it was bad then. It's not good now because you're doing it again. Betrayed's not a terrible Broadway song. It's a good song. It just happens to be the 12th song, and that's the problem. I'm trying to think of all the musicals that I've seen. I can't think of one where I watched 12 songs. Maybe I did. Like maybe I'm losing it, but I feel like you could do this movie half an hour shorter with 7 songs. And I don't think that we're complaining the same way that we are.
No, not at all. It's a lot of it is just fatigue at this point. It's like, just get on with it. You just want to fucking get on with it, man, at this point. And and it's not even like his betrayal song does anything. It's like, okay, Leo betrayed me, so you're gonna bitch about it for the next 5 minutes? It doesn't matter, because Leo's gonna be in the next scene anyway, and you're gonna be best friends. It's pointless. Every scene, every musical is now just becoming pointless. It's like I said, just self-indulgent, just doing it because we need a musical number. We have a musical number in the Broadway show, so we're gonna put it in here. It doesn't serve the story at all. It doesn't drive the story forward. It doesn't need to be. Does it need to be 5 minutes? No, but we're gonna make it 5 minutes still. Why?
They even with everything that's going on, they've shared less actual screen time. Like there's more interaction with Leo and Ula at this point, really, than Max and Leo. So like, to kind of one of the things we were talking about earlier, this sort of buddy scenario, this portrayal is actually, there's less of it. So what portrayal? I'm like, from what we've established with the songs and dances, the Uli Leo connection is something that we should be focusing on more than the Leo Max connection. The only thing that Leo and Max sang together was about Leo, going against his own sort of morals and doing something for Max. So again, I say, whatever. Who cares? Go to Rio, take the money, because this guy was a scumbag in the first place and he tried to take advantage of you. Don't go down with him. But of course, as we know, he's going to go down with him because that's, I guess, the story. But like, why? Why?
But don't worry, because Leo will be back in court. And don't you know, Reggie, we have another musical number to describe the relationship reunited. You missed the relationship, Reggie? Well, here it is in musical form. Yeah, I really just didn't give a shit.
I'm checked out. I don't remember how the song goes. I just know that he said that Max was a good guy, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty much Gene Wilder's speech in the original in song form, and now both of them have to sing it. And,
let's just skip that one.
Let's just get this over. This movie's already over like 2 hours at this point. Let's move on. All right, I got nothing for that one. And then we're in prison because you go to prison for doing that. And just like the original, we have our second song, which was from the original, our Prisoners of Love. It's great, catchy tune.
Right.
And it's definitely not as good as it was in the original because for a couple of reasons. Yep. Number one, right before they get sent to jail, Leo and Max say, "We will never do this again," in the original. And then there they are in jail, just doing it right there. I don't think there was that setup in the remake.
I don't remember.
I could be wrong because I definitely checked out, but I don't recall that. And that's where our original ends, in jail with them just doing that.
Yeah.
But not our remake. Not our remake, Reggie. We got them in jail doing that, and Franz is there too for some reason. But not only are they still scamming people in jail, they get to get released early because now they've made all these prisoners. I forgot exactly like
Happy,
extortioners.
yeah.
Yeah, they're making all these terrible people good, so they get to get out of jail, and then they're making Prisoners of Love on Broadway and having success with it.
Yeah.
Which I just have problems with the ending.
Totally.
I don't know if I should go into it. Sure, I will. Why not? It makes sense. The original ending, Leo and Max, they didn't learn their lesson. They're still gonna scam everybody, even scamming the warden. I love that. Even the warden wants in on it. Well, the warden could have 30%. So we end in jail. Nobody's learned their lesson. Bad people are gonna stay bad. It's comedy. Sure.
Cool.
Why not? But then the remake, it's like, okay, now you guys are released from jail, but they were still scamming. So now they're on Broadway. Are they? This is where I'm confused. Are they still scamming, or are they actually making legitimate hits? Because you have the director and Ula back, and they're still doing their shtick, kind of.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. Did they learn? Are they just successful now? Are they still scamming? It didn't answer. Those questions for me.
I think that the movie or the play, whatever it is, the musical, wants a nice button-up happy ending for our leads, who don't deserve a nice button-up happy ending, which is why the original works, because, like I said, they go right back to doing it. And even with them in jail, I don't feel bad that they're in jail. I'm having fun with them. They're clearly
because they're still scamming and doing their thing, so they're okay.
What's the difference?
I'm okay if they're okay.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, it might be a better existence for them. I mean, there's positives to it, but like you said, I don't understand what's happening at the end of the remake. Like, I'm assuming that they're now doing legitimate plays and that these are all hits, but why would that be the case? Given what we know about these two, does it matter that Leo Bloom is now a Broadway producer? His dream, I guess. Like, why did they get out of jail early? Like, doesn't it matter that they learn a lesson about fraud? No. The two guys that we introduced you to at the beginning of the film are still buddies and they're still going on. So, yay. I didn't get it. I would have preferred them to still be in jail just to wrap things up neatly. I can tell that the Broadway production, you can't just do that in Broadway. So I guess they had a happy kind of go-lucky ending with another music number. So whatever.
Yeah, I didn't like it. But, that's kind of how the movie ends. I even wrote in my notes, "End now, please." Because I was just so fucking tired. But if you wanted some more music, Reggie, we don't get one. We don't get two. We get 3 more songs during the credits.
I didn't know that.
2 during the actual credits and 1 post-credits. Short. It's a very short one.
Mm-hmm.
But we still get 1 more. And Mel Brooks is in it.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw it. Yeah, so after the credits, you get Mel Brooks. He does this Ferris Bueller thing. He does a Matthew Broderick and goes, "What are you doing here? Go home." He does that.
Oh, really?
So I don't know if that was a nod to Ferris Bueller, but if it was clever. But at that point, I really didn't give a shit. Because, God damn it,
I can't believe you made it into the credits.
Oh no, I fast forward. I definitely just to hear is that a different song? Is that a different song? And then I rented it on Amazon, so I was fast forward. And I saw that the last thumbnail there was an image. I was like, "Fuck!"
Yeah,
I gotta see what this is. So it was like a 20-second song. It wasn't long at all. And then just Mel Brooks was there, so that's a thing that happened.
I mean, let's put it this way. I'm glad Mel Brooks got to do his victory lap because this was his from what I understand, this was his directorial debut. The producers, I mean, rightfully so, got an Academy Award for it.
Best screenplay.
It's an incredible screenplay. It's an incredible story, and when the movie sticks to the story, it works, and when it starts to do its own thing, it doesn't. Mm-hmm. But we'll get around to all that.
Okay, so we covered all the musical numbers, covered all the different portrayals and any deviations from the original. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about for our verdict?
No, I mean, I think we hit everything. What more could there be?
All right, well, if you've been listening, I don't think I need to ask this question, but here I go. Yeah. Anyways, Reggie. Should this remake exist?
The Broadway musical should exist. It should exist because people love the story of the producers. It's kind of tailor-made for this type of that type of medium. It's an homage to Broadway to an extent. It's some of the sharpest, funniest, and endearing political, or like not political, but just satire that I've ever seen. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed watching the original film. I cannot say the same thing about the remake. I thoroughly did not enjoy watching the remake. There were moments where I was like, yes, I like this, and yes, I like that. I like the first Will Ferrell song. Like you said, I liked the intro because it was like, all right, how are they going to introduce this? And they did it in a clean, sort of tight way that I think, had they have kept that sort of momentum, telling the story, adding the music, but keeping it tight, I think that I would have been fine. But like you said, it gets so indulgent and so much like it is truly theater. It's look at me, look at everything that I'm doing, look at all this pageantry, and the story just gets thrown to the side whenever they choose to, and it just I didn't enjoy it. I don't think that remake should exist. Maybe there's a version of this that should exist, but honestly, why? 1967 film nailed it. It was perfect. It was a perfect fucking movie, man. So no need for a remake.
Yeah. I'm just gonna go ahead and say I agree with you. There's no spoilers there. Yeah, I don't necessarily have a thing against musicals. It's not necessarily my genre, but yeah, I could appreciate a good musical. We did Little Shop of Horrors. You know, that was an example of taking just a comedy and not only just turning it into a musical, but it became its own thing, right? The remake of Producers felt like Producers with more music. It didn't really feel like its own thing because they just borrowed so many of the same old dialogue and the jokes. So it's like I was reliving the experience of watching the movie, but it was dragged out in a way that I felt like I was suffering almost. Right. It's exhausting. That many musical numbers. Each one just kept. It felt longer than the last one. Each musical number. Like you said, this would work on Broadway. But there is a reason you don't do every Broadway show as a movie, a one-to-one. Like, let's do everything we did on Broadway here. Like, even Little Shop of Horrors made changes. Yes. They cut out songs. They even changed the ending because they're like, well, this won't work in a movie. You have to understand your medium. And, by having the director of the Broadway show, I felt like that's kind of a dangerous thing because, she directs Broadway, and this works on Broadway, so it should work in movies, but it doesn't. It doesn't work on movies. So while it's probably it's best experienced in Broadway for sure, as a movie, did we need it? Not at all. I think just keep it on Broadway.
Yeah.
Did not need it as a movie. Little Shop of Horrors did it right. That's how you bring it from a Broadway to the big screen. It was still short and it was different enough from the source material, where it merited, this should be done. But like, you just dragged out the original story and you made me appreciate it less because it just was all these stupid musical numbers in between. Maybe if it was shorter, maybe I guarantee if like the musical numbers were half as long, like it would be so much easier. But like, I don't know. You did what you did and I didn't like it. So it's going to be a hard pass.
Yeah. I would say, to your point, the Curb Your Enthusiasm stuff is better.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
Yeah. Like that's a funny homage to this source material. This it's an homage, but like it's not an homage. It's basically a recreation, which there is a space for that in the remake world. The only problem is they didn't do a recreation. Like you said, if you had taken those same two actors and basically just ran them through a one-to-one of the Producers, I wouldn't be that upset. I probably would just say, I thought that their take was okay, but go watch the original because that's where the real action is. But like every time there was a joke that I liked from the original, when it hit, the next thing that followed it was like 5 minutes of something I didn't care about, and I'm like, wow, you're killing the pacing of this really well done, really succinct story. Like you said, it's not a complicated story. Failing producer, scammer comes up with another scam with a kind of bumbling buddy, as it were. They pull off the impossible and make the worst Broadway show ever a massive hit to their own detriment. So like, that's what's funny about this thing. It's like the good times were built on like the good, and the bad times are bad, and now they're trying to flip that and say, let's do something really bad to make the times good again. Like it's hilarious, and like it's probably one of the most like I'm probably not the right person to say this, but like it might be one of the most like Jewish films of all time. Like Mel Brooks just really just lands that like super like tight Jewish humor that Mel Brooks is known for, that like Woody Allen is known for. And it's just like this great combination of like sticking it to the Nazis while having a laugh at their expense. It's just so perfect that I can't believe they somehow found this garbage that we had to watch.
Well, yeah, like in all fairness, it probably works on Broadway. You know, you got the
I agree.
intermission. You know, like you said, you got a few drinks in you. You're having a good time. You're with a live audience. This is great. But watching it at home, 2 hours and 14 minutes straight, feels like a marathon, man. It's tough. Yeah, and to your point, like Curb Your Enthusiasm. If you want to watch a modern sort of retelling of the producers, just watch that season of Curb. You'll love it. Mel Brooks is in it more too. Larry David's great in it, and we have David Schwimmer and Ben Stiller playing the Leo parts.
good.
It's fantastic. Fucking Larry David's trying to bang the actress playing Ula the whole time. It is so good. Watch that. Much better than this musical number. So much better.
Yeah, and you know the saddest part about all of it is I can't point to an actor and say that actor is the problem. I can't point to you know, certain elements of story and say that's the problem. It really is the music. The music is the problem, and because it's a musical, there's no getting around it. There's no getting around it, man. Like it's not a great musical.
It doesn't work on film, at least. Maybe if I saw it on Broadway, but like as watching it on film, it's just not good.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well.
That's a that's our review.
Yeah, moving on.
The producers. Yeah, moving on. We don't want to drag it out like those musical
prisoners
numbers,
of this movie. Prisoners of this movie.
There you go. There's a remake I'll watch. All right. Well, that about concludes our comparison to the producers. Thanks for listening. But before that, we're of course gonna let you know what our next episode is gonna be. And since I picked producers, sorry, Reggie.
Well, I picked Poseidon. Sorry, Dan.
Well, I gave it a go, so I thought that was good. But what do you think we should do for next one?
Well, somehow they took a comedy and made it not very funny. So let's try to watch something that's intentionally not trying to be funny. Just live in that space. Well, I have not looked at a list, so let me do that. We're coming off of a sci-fi. We're coming off of a comedy / musical. Let's go back to just silly action. Stop thinking. There's way too much pandemic going on right now. My take, let's do Conan the Barbarian, if that's what the remake or the original is called. But I'm going Conan.
I'm pretty sure it's Conan the Barbarian. Okay, yeah. Mindless action, little Schwarzenegger. Don't know the name of the guy that portrayed the new one.
It was
all right, Conan.
One of those like swole guys. It might have been like a Momoa type character. It doesn't matter.
I was gonna say Momoa, but I didn't want to like be like it's Momoa, obviously.
If it's not him, it's someone like him. All right, so yeah, that works for me.
All right, Conan the Barbarian. It is. It is Momoa.
Oh wow, cool.
All right, so that's a big name. That's not just a nobody off the streets. We got Jason Momoa versus Arnold Schwarzenegger. That'll be cool.
Yeah, it sure will be.
You'd be like, "What's up, my man? Yeah, I'm Conan." Okay. All right. Well, thanks for listening to the episode, everybody. Just Retro versus Remake. You know, we're on iTunes. If you follow us there, please give us a 5-star review. If not, you know, if you're on YouTube, just give us a comment. Let us know what you think. You can also reach us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all retro versus remake. Yeah, just give us feedback, guys. We're all about feedback and improving the show for you.
Yeah, totally. We really appreciate all the comments that we've seen on YouTube. It's definitely helped sort of flavor my take on the show as well. So any insight we're going to use, positive or not, mostly positive, I hope. But thanks for supporting us and listening. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah. All right. Well, that about does it. I'm Dan Bulick.
And I'm Reggie Parker.
And thanks for listening to another episode of
Retro versus Remake.
It's going to be funny because your lips aren't going to be moving.
That's a good point, actually.